Welcome back here to Mighty Mac on YouTube. Once again, if you guys enjoyed the content, to be sure to subscribe today to the channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming content. We are here live in Brainerd for the Lucas Oil NHRA Nationals. We're one race away from the 70th edition of the Big Go for the Toyota US Nationals, and they will give you all of the coverage that you need to get ready for the countdown to the championship. So if you want to make sure that you're up to date with the championship battle in the NHRA Mission Foods Drag Racing Series, then be sure to subscribe to the channel today, not just for the content, but so that way you're aware of when we do the announcement for the Peak giveaway contest. If you missed our Norwalk content for Night Under Fire, Peak has once again stepped up their involvement and are supporting the channel for this year's coverage of the US Nationals. But not only that, they have hooked us up with some cool swag bag items that we get to give out to you, the fans. We have 3 to give away. So if you want to enter, subscribe to the channel today, because on Monday, August 26th, that's 1 week before eliminations of the US Nationals, we are going to send out an announcement post where you can click the link and sign up to have a shot at winning one of the 3 swag bags. So if you want to stay up to date not only with the NHRA content, but as well as your shot to win some cool gear, then subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the updates. And without further ado, let's get into the video. So that was a very interesting day here at the zoo. We were able to get 2 rounds of qualifying in for 2 of the 3 categories. We almost looked like we weren't going to get any of them in without the weather transpired. If you remember what happened last year, it was pretty much a repeat of that. I arrived here at about 11 o'clock. I left at noon to go do an interview with Ida Zetterstrom, which you can watch right now. As soon as I left the media center, it started raining. It wasn't even like a hard rain where it was annoying. It was that kind of rain where it just sprinkled and it persisted and it annoyed the heck out of you. And that was pretty much our entire day for the most part of the afternoon. It started raining at about noon. It didn't stop raining until about 4 o'clock. And then the Safety Safari did their magic, did what they do best, and they got this track ready. Cars rolled out about 4:40. We're able to get Top Fuel, Funny Car, and Pro Stock done for round 1 of qualifying. And then for round 2, Pro Stock was told to pack it up for the night. They're going to be having 3 rounds of qualifying tomorrow. So if you remember what happened in Brainerd last year, it's a repeat of that. There's going to be 2 rounds of qualifying for Top Fuel and Funny Car, and then 3 for Pro Stock, including the Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge. So that's going to be something very interesting to look forward to see how the teams cope with that, with the changing weather conditions. It was also the debut for Ida Zetterstrom, her first ever time running an NHRA Top Fuel Dragster. The former FIA World Champion made her debut today in national event competition. Had a pretty cool run during Q1, but wasn't as successful in Q2. We'll talk about where she ended up later. Like I said, we did an interview with her as she looks forward to those runs, so you can watch and get her thoughts as she prepares for her first national event, as she looks for the Rookie of the Year standings, as well as the return for Jack Beckmans after a 4-year absence from the sport, stepping in for John Forrest as he tries to win John his 17th Funny Car World Championship here for John Forrest Racing. If you remember back on Norwalk, we were there to get his first ever runs back in a Funny Car, where he got his license renewed during Night Under Fire. He set his fastest run of his return for JFR today during Q1. Did not have as much success during Q2. Again, we'll talk about that in a bit. And then for Tony Stewart, his fastest ever ET mile an hour, ran a 3.688 at 334 miles an hour. Blitzed his way up to the top of the charts in Q2. We'll see where he ended up here in a minute. But first, let's look into your qualifying results. In Pro Stock, the Minnesota native Greg Anderson with a 6.641 took #1 honors for the afternoon. Aaron Stanfield ended up second. He's had a very good run the last couple weeks. He rounds out runner-up with a 6.642. Right behind them is another KB Titan car, Matt Harper, with a 6.43. Dallas Glenn, your points leader, with a 6.44, finds himself in 4th. Eric Latino again, continuing to build momentum. He rounds out 5th. Erica Ender still looking for that elusive 50th NHRA win, ends up 6th. Jerry Tucker 7th, and Christian Quadra rounds out the top half. In 9th, Fernando Quadra Jr. with a 6.660 ends up 9th. Then you have Troy Coughlin Jr. and Jay Coughlin Jr. ending 10th and 11th. David Quadra in 12th. Corey Reed, who made it to the finals back at Sonoma a couple weeks ago, I should say, ends up 13th. Derek Reese 14th. Derek Kramer 15th, and then Kenny Delco was unable to make his run after the pins on his parachute fell out. They weren't able to get it back in. They had to shut it off. He currently sits last. In funny car, the big surprise for Blake Alexander. If you remember back at Sonoma, blew it up twice, had a big kaboom on a Friday night. He was very hard on himself for how hard the team would have to work to fix his mistake. He ends up #1 qualifier today, so a huge morale booster for him as he looks to get himself into the top 10 at points to make the funny car countdown. A 3.874 holds him up to the top. Alex DeJoy with an 8.82 holds on to second. Bob Taskett III with an 8.84 rounds out third. He was looking to possibly get the 340-mile-an-hour run tonight, was unable to do it after smoking the tires in Q1 of the starting line, and then was only able to get about a 333 in Q2. Cruz Pedregon, an impressive run in fourth with an 894. Paul Lee fifth with a 912. Proc down in sixth. Beckman in seventh with a 920. That is his fastest run since his return to funny car driving for JFR. J.R. Todd with a 3.938 rounds out 8th. Chad Green in 9th with a 9.42. Daniel Wilkerson in 10th. Bobby Bodie in 11th. Jack Wyatt 12th. Ron Capps in 13th. Your second in points, Matt Hagan 14th. Dave Richards in 15th. And then Buddy Hall in 16th. Lastly, in top fuel, Steve Torrance tied Tony Storr's 3.688, but he took #1 qualifiers as he ran a 3.35. He beat him by a mile an hour, therefore he takes the #1 spot on a tiebreaker. Tony Storr has to settle for second. Doug Coletta, who looked as though he might have had a shot to take the spot, while he runs a 7.03, he ends up third. Sean Langdon, who has looked very strong the last couple of races and has for the most part of the season, started off really strong, kind of went into a mid-pack slump, and now has found himself back up at the top of the category with a really good shot at winning this championship as we head towards the countdown. He ends up fourth. Jasmine Salinas in fifth. Brittany Force, a really good return to form for that Monster Energy team. They have struggled all season. This was the run that they were looking for all year. Could this be the weekend where they turn the corner and finally get to hoist a Wally again? Billy Torrance in 7th. Justin Ashley 8th. Antron Brown rounds out 9th. Josh Hart in 10th. Sean Reed 11th. Tony Schumacher and Ida Zetterstrom round out 12th and 13th for the JCM cars. And then last on the running order is Clay Milliken with a 4.34.1. We had an opportunity to hear from some of our #1 qualifiers after today's rounds of qualifying. Here's what they had to say, and then we can look forward to Saturday.
To hit his 5 shifts. 6.64.1, and by 1/1000th of a second, the Minnesota man takes the #1 spot. Greg Anderson goes to the top spot with a 6.641. Buddy Hall drives in the tire shake, and Blake Alexander goes 387. 331 miles per hour, and Blake Alexander goes to #1. 368, 335. Steve Torrance goes 3.688 and goes to the #1 on speed.
You talked about Sonoma, where you had the 2 broken bodies and the blow up, and you were very hard on yourself in those top end interviews when asked about it. What was it like for you to go from those lowest to lows and now come here to the highest to highs, go top of the charts by the end of Friday, and how much of like a morale booster is that not just for you but for your team as well as you try to stay in this countdown fight?
Yeah, I think we needed that, is what we all were saying. If you guys, I don't think anyone has any clue how hard these men have to work on these cars after a mistake like that happens. Part of the despair for us is that we understand the amount of work and money that has to be spent to come back out here. So, yeah, it all felt really good. It was all very necessary for us to have a good day today to run well. And I think even if we had just been safe today and comfortable, that would have been good too. But what we were looking to do, basically from the first run, is we were fixing the small little issue we had the last race, but we weren't going to back down.
You've been very open within the last couple of years that you're not too happy with what the performance that you guys have had, knowing that you guys could be better with what you've done in years past. Through these last few races, we've seen that return to that elite form that we saw you in back when you were on that championship streak back in 2018. How much of a satisfaction is it for you to see that car go back to what it should be running and seeing it back to being the car to beat within this class?
Well, what made it so difficult is you have a car that goes out, and the crazy thing is, we're in the process of moving into a new office at Capco. I'm building a new office, and so I loaded up all my Wallies the other day and had them in the back of the truck, and I moved them over. Well, then I had them sectioned by year. So like 2012, 2013, had a couple, didn't win in 14, won in 15, and then like 17, there was I think there was 11 in 17, there was 11 of them in 19 or 20. I mean, there was 4 years there that's at minimum 5 races a year, 6 races a year, and then a couple 11 race years where we win. And you take a car that does that and you say, okay, well, we got to get better. And that's pretty frustrating. But with that being said, we won a lot of races by not making mistakes. We didn't outrun the guy, we just didn't make the mistake that they did trying to outrun us. And so we had utilized our race car that we had to the most of its capability, and we needed to make it better. And so by taking and completely disassembling the building to try to rebuild a better one, it's hard to watch when you're like, man, this is a really good race car and program and setup and tune-up and everything that we have, and we're going to throw it on the shelf and build a new one. And that's what we've done. And I mean, I'm telling you, man, sometimes it's hard to stay with the girl you brought to the dance when there's a whole bunch of supermodels around there, but you got to do it. And that's what we did, and it's coming to fruition now. I will say, I don't think that the consistency is where it still needs to be, but you got to stick with those guys and support them, and that's what we've been able to do with Richard and Bobby and everybody. And man, for a while I felt like I was just looking into a black hole. Now there is a flicker of flame at the end of the tunnel, and we're kind of seeing some light to work to, and that makes it all worth it.
So that is going to wrap up our content here today for the Friday night qualifying here at Brainerd International Raceway. Again, if you guys like the content we provide, be sure to subscribe to the channel today so you don't miss any of the upcoming content as we look forward to the countdown, as well as the announcement post for the Peak giveaway. Follow me on all social media pages down below. Mighty Mac 03 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And until Saturday night, this has been Mighty Mac. We will see you next time.